Charlie Munger. To some, he was Warren Buffett's right-hand man. To others, he was a curmudgeonly billionaire with a razor-sharp tongue and a mind like a steel trap. But to those who studied him carefully, Charlie Munger was something far more rare. A philosopher of rationality, a builder of mental clarity, and a man who lived life on principle and compound interest, both financially and intellectually. He was born on January 1st, 1924, in Omaha, Nebraska, right in the heart of America. He came from a respectable but modest background. His father, Alfred Munger, was a lawyer. His grandfather was a federal judge. Education, discipline, and curiosity were cornerstones of the household. Charlie wasn't raised with wealth, but with values, hard work, honesty, and independent thinking. As a young man, he worked at a grocery store called Buffett and Son, owned by Warren Buffett's grandfather. At the time, he was just a teenager, bagging groceries. Warren was a few years younger, living just blocks away. They didn't know it then, but their paths were slowly bending toward each other, destined to shape one of the greatest partnerships in business history. Charlie had a restless mind from the beginning. He devoured books, excelled at mathematics, and thought deeply about how the world worked. He enrolled at the University of Michigan to study math, but in 1943, he left college to serve in World War II, joining the U.S. Army Air Corps. He trained as a meteorologist, an assignment that required clear thinking, systems understanding, and forecasting under pressure. These skills would become trademarks of his later success. After the war, Munger did something few thought possible. He applied to Harvard Law School without a bachelor's degree. Through a recommendation and a personal interview, he got in. It wasn't luck. It was intellect, maturity, and unmistakable potential. He graduated magna cum laude in 1948 and moved to California, where he built a successful legal practice. But the world of law never fully satisfied him. He was ambitious, not for status or wealth, but for freedom. In his own words, "Law is a profession where you sell your time, and I didn't want to sell my time." So Charlie began to teach himself how to invest. He didn't go back to school. He read, observed, studied. He learned from real-world examples and failures. By the late 1950s, Munger was transitioning from law to finance. He formed his own investment partnership, Wheeler, Munger and Company, in 1962. He ran it until 1975, delivering outstanding returns. His approach was different from the dominant value investing of the day. Where others hunted for cheap, distressed companies, Charlie focused on quality. He didn't want to buy businesses at a discount. He wanted to own great businesses that could compound value over the long term. This thinking would soon influence someone else, Warren Buffett, who was still operating under the deep discount, cigar butt model of investing taught by Benjamin Graham. Buffett was buying companies that were statistically cheap, even if they were poor quality businesses. Munger challenged that model. He believed that it was better to buy a great company at a fair price than a mediocre one at a bargain. Their conversations deepened over the 1960s and 70s. The two shared a language, one built on logic, restraint, and long-term vision. Munger wasn't afraid to push back on Buffett, and Buffett wasn't too proud to listen. Buffett would later say, "Charlie reshaped my thinking. He expanded my horizons." Their partnership was cemented not by contracts, but by mutual respect. In 1978, Charlie Munger officially became vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, the investment firm Buffett had been building. From that moment on, Berkshire began to evolve into something more sophisticated, more deliberate. Munger's fingerprints were all over it. He urged Buffett to be more selective, more focused on durable companies with strong economic moats, businesses that could survive and thrive over decades. Munger brought more than investing wisdom to Berkshire. He brought philosophy, not academic philosophy, but mental clarity. He argued that investors, and people in general, made terrible decisions because they didn't understand how the world actually worked. His solution? Develop what he called a lattice work of mental models. These were big ideas drawn from across disciplines: biology, physics, psychology, economics, engineering, and used to better interpret reality. No single discipline was enough. You needed multiple lenses. He loved ideas like opportunity cost from economics, inversion from mathematics, social proof from psychology, and second-order thinking from systems theory. He believed in simplicity, in reducing problems to their essential truths. One of his most famous maxims was, "Take a simple idea and take it seriously." But Charlie's wisdom wasn't abstract. It was forged in personal pain. In 1955, his 8-year-old son, Teddy, died from leukemia. Munger was only 31. It devastated him. Years later, he described the experience not with bitterness, but with stoic acceptance. "If you're not prepared to deal with hardship," he said, "you're not prepared for life." He also faced physical challenges. In middle age, he lost vision in one eye due to complications during surgery. Doctors told him he might go completely blind. Instead of despair, he adapted. He taught himself Braille, continued reading, and never let the challenge define him. Munger raised a large family, 8 children, and led a life that, from the outside, looked almost quiet. He never flaunted his wealth. Even after becoming a billionaire, he lived modestly, gave generously to schools and institutions, and avoided the spotlight. Unlike most billionaires, he never wrote a memoir, but he did speak often, mainly at the Berkshire Hathaway annual meetings and later at the Daily Journal Corporation, where he served as chairman. These appearances became legendary. Audiences would sit for hours, listening to a 90-something man deliver zingers and insights in equal measure.
But you know, if you mix raisins with turds, they're still turds.
He didn't pander. He didn't hedge. He told the truth as he saw it. If someone asked how to get rich, he might say, "It's not supposed to be easy. Anyone who finds it easy is stupid." Or, "Spend less than you earn. Invest wisely. Avoid toxic people. And keep learning all your life." And he lived by his own rules. Munger read voraciously. Biographies, science, economics, history. He believed deeply in lifelong learning and in cultivating good character. He once said, "The best armor you can have in life is a seamless web of deserved trust." When asked how he made decisions so well, Munger didn't credit intelligence or luck. He credited avoiding stupidity. He said, "It is remarkable how much long-term advantage people like us have gotten by trying to be consistently not stupid, instead of trying to be very intelligent." On November 28, 2023, Charlie Munger passed away at the age of 99, just a month shy of his 100th birthday. The tributes poured in, not just from investors, but from thinkers, educators, and leaders across the world. Warren Buffett called him the architect of Berkshire Hathaway and said no one had shaped his life more than Charlie. But perhaps Charlie Munger's greatest legacy isn't a company or even a fortune. It's the clarity of thought he gave to those willing to listen.